It was shocking to read some of the comments on Twitter yesterday and the conversations surrounding Donovan Mitchell's extended absence from the ball club. Now, we have no idea when Donovan Mitchell is going to return to this team. He is battling a concussion right now. Yes, this box is menacing. I agree. One of the comments says the box is menacing. But yes, it's got 3,000 names in it.
Yeah, the box.
The box. Nice box, bro.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, Donovan Mitchell has a concussion and nobody knows when he's coming back.
Never.
And I guess, well, I think it's going to be sooner than never.
Sure,
I think it's going to be sooner. It will be sooner than never. But my point is Donovan Mitchell a problem for the Utah Jazz? And we have at length talked about the fact that I and many people around the NBA agree that this team is built around the wrong guy in Rudy Gobert. There's no question about that. Jake, is it a problem? Is Donovan Mitchell a problem? Is his concussion a problem? Is Donovan Mitchell a franchise player?
I mean, so number one, is the concussion a problem? I mean, yes and no. Yes, from the standpoint of Donovan Mitchell is not on the floor. Donovan Mitchell is not able to contribute to the team right now on the floor. I think, if you watch Jazz games consistently, and we don't, we're casual.
You're casual.
Obviously. But, if you watch Jazz games consistently, you'll notice that lately, during this time when Donovan has been out, the broadcast is doing a really nice job of showing Don with the clipboard and talking to young guys and just making sure that everybody knows that Don's involved. So, is he a problem? Not necessarily. He is with the team. He is coaching up young guys and, I guess getting over this concussion, which seems kind of odd to me at this point. But I think the bigger conversation that I think needs to be had right now is, let's say they do tear the team down. Let's say they make all these trades and they do all this stuff that everyone's talking about them doing either at the deadline or in the summer, and they build around Donovan Mitchell. Can Donovan Mitchell be the franchise player they need him to be and they expect him to be? And that, I think, is the true question of Don right now. My opinion on that is that, on the floor, yeah, talent-wise, yes, but I question his leadership ability based on where this team is at. That's what I wonder about. I question, how is it that this locker room got to where it got to? How is it, even if it's not 100% true, even if it's only 50% true, that his relationship with his center, the second best player on the team, Rudy Gobert, is at a minimum not great, and at a maximum it's strained and they don't talk? How does it get there? You have to be better than that. The stars in this league, like yesterday, I was scrolling through Instagram, as we all do. A video came up of LeBron doing a presser with Kyrie when they were Cleveland Cavaliers. And the reporter asked LeBron, well, hey, if Kyrie had made this shot or that shot, would you guys be in a better position? And what does LeBron do? Just like he did with Russell Westbrook, he defended Kyrie and said, put it on me. I had 7 turnovers. I had this. I had that. And that's what I think is missing from Donovan's leadership game right now. He's not controlling the narrative of the team. He's not out in the media saying, hey, they're like, yes, I know last week I got sent the post about, Ben Anderson asking asking Don if he wanted to trade. And it's like, all right, that's the last time we've really heard from Don. We haven't, where is this guy at? And it begs, to me, I'm wondering, hey, what's the deal with this concussion? Is it really that bad? Are you really telling me that you've had to been out, 2 weeks now with a concussion?
It's been exactly 2 weeks.
But you're healthy enough to be on the sidelines writing up plays and laughing and joking around on the bench? That's really the message that we're trying to send here? So that's why I wonder, what is going on? I'm not saying that the guy's holding out or he doesn't want to play or he's trying to force a trade. I'm not saying any of that. But I am simply saying it's just curious that it's taking him so long to get back, because first the local guys or the local reporters reported that the team said that he was out of protocol and now it's just conditioning. That Don's got to get back into game shape and it's just conditioning.
I think Tony Jones is the one that reported that, if memory serves.
Yeah, Tony and then a couple other people. And then, you've got, oh, well, he's not out of concussion protocol and it's not conditioning. So what is it? That's what I'm curious about. What the hell is going on with this guy right now?
What I find so fascinating, and I probably read too much into this, I think this is part of the narrative on the local media. we don't have a media here in Salt Lake City that has relationships with Don. And so we don't get the real inside. We don't have anybody that can say, well, hey, Donovan Mitchell's waking up with headaches. Donovan Mitchell's experiencing, vertigo. Donovan Mitchell is having blurred vision. He gets nauseous when he plays. Like, we don't know what the issue is. And I guess the question is, are we entitled? Yeah, actually, I think we are entitled.
When it comes to Donovan Mitchell, yeah, we
yeah,
are.
believe it or not, I think we are entitled. And I don't believe on the regular that we should be entitled to people's medical information. But when you are a professional athlete, I think you give up some of that anonymity.
I think that's HIPAA.
Yeah, and I totally, in all seriousness, I totally understand that it's HIPAA.
I think that's HIPAA.
But when you're a star on the level of Donovan Mitchell, and let's pull no punches. In Salt Lake City, Donovan Mitchell is the brightest of stars.
The beginning and the end.
Yeah, there's no bigger star in Salt Lake City than Donovan Mitchell. I mean, if you think about Salt Lake, like, who's the biggest sports name in this town?
Well, I think Cam Rising had taken over during the football season a little bit, but I think he's not bigger than. I totally
disagree.
He's not bigger than Donovan Mitchell.
I think the biggest name in town is probably Kyle Whittingham, Kalani Sitake, Tom Homo would have to be right there. Donovan Mitchell's right there. Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, because he's such a massive human being, can't walk down the street.
Rudy Gobert is a Twitter hero. That's what he is.
But Donovan Mitchell is somebody that young kids gravitate to.
Yeah, they wear his shoe, they wear his jersey. He's the guy.
And I think that's why, at this point, that's why I think there needs to be an explanation.
Yeah.
You can't simply have this guy out for weeks at a time with concussion protocol.
Spinal.
No, I think where the culture on this team is and where the culture in this locker room is, we're past the point where you can just say, yeah, he's got a concussion, he's out. And then you have conflicting reporting, and I have no doubt that Donovan Mitchell is dealing with concussion. I'm not the guy that's going to question him on that, but it's a little odd. How severe is this concussion? This is 2 full weeks.
Yeah.
It generally does not take your brain 2 full weeks to recover from a concussion, especially not in the NBA.
Yeah, and it's not like he, fell from the sky or something crazy. Like, I'm not saying that he's not working hard to get back or that he's like trying to force a trade or whatever. I'm not saying any of that. All I'm simply saying is that in a time when the team is clearly a mess and they're trying to get a grip on life, in a time when you're falling down the standings at a pretty aggressive pace, I just feel like, Don would be wanting to get back as soon as possible. And yesterday you brought up on the show in that last year in that Memphis series when, you had Don's people saying this and the team's people saying that. Notice we're not getting that here. Notice we're not getting, hey, Don's people are saying he's good to go. Team saying he's not good to go. We're not getting any of that. Nobody has said anything on that front. And that's what I also think, because a lot of times in these situations, it's what's not said, what's not happening.
Absolutely.
That's what you have to pay attention to. What is not present? What's not present is, hey, Don's people are saying he's good to go, but the team is saying, yeah, he's not good to go. And there's drama. That's not present here.
By the way, what are you, Denver, Brooklyn, the Knicks, Golden State? That's the next 4 games.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck, bro.
Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday. You need Donovan Mitchell. I would think that he would. I would hope that he'd be back for Brooklyn on Friday. I mean,
but again, because we don't have information, I can't definitively say that he would be. I mean, I would guess that today or tomorrow we'll start seeing some tweets from folks like Tony Jones or any of the people that cover the team that Don is probable and he's working his way back.
Well, I would think that they would release a medical today. I would think that they would update that. I don't know. I mean, we're not entitled to any of this, by the way. I mean, I get it. It is HIPAA. It is his personal medical information. But I'm telling you now, it's more than that.
We're not entitled to know the exact extent of how severe the concussion is in the personal, nail by nail, detail by detail, ongoings of his medical condition. But we are entitled to know how long it's going to be until, how long, generally speaking, like a ballpark figure of when Donovan Mitchell is going to be back. If it's going to be a month, just say, hey, it's going to be a month. If it's going to be 2 weeks, say, hey, it's going to be 2 weeks. He's going to be out for an extended amount of time. Why is it so hard to say that? You know? Like, why can't, like, we're not asking for his height and his weight and his social security number. You know? We're asking, we just want to know how long is dude going to be out, generally speaking. You know? And I don't think that is too much to ask. And so that's why when I stop and I take sort of, I guess, stock of the situation, hey, what are we seeing? What are we not seeing? What does this feel like? What are we hearing? I'm not hearing anything from Donovan Mitchell's camp. I'm not hearing anything from the team, and I'm sure we'll hear something today. But just the idea that we haven't heard really too much on this situation brings me back to the question that began the show and why we're having this conversation. Is Donovan Mitchell a problem? Can he be a franchise player? He's not a problem, but I do wonder if he can be a franchise player the same way that the same way that Devin Booker's a franchise player or Jason Tatum's a franchise player.
I don't have any doubt about that. I think Donovan Mitchell is one of the top 15 players in the NBA.
But the question isn't on the floor. Remember, that's not the conversation we're having.
No, I think defensively it is on the floor. I think Donovan Mitchell is not doing the job as a leader, and I think that's why I say it doesn't take a whole lot to add up the equation here. I mean, you look at the controversial comments that some are making. You look at people talking about people right now are trying to choose between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, and I think it's a huge mistake. I think right now you need to appreciate those two together because I frankly don't think they're going to change. I think the Jazz are going to have Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell on this roster for at least 2 more years. And I think that they are going to dramatically shift the way the roster is constructed to focus and shift the onus on success to Donovan Mitchell and away from Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
Because you have to come to grips with the fact that Donovan Mitchell is the prototypical 2022 NBA player. He is offensive. He gets to the basket. He has incredible range from 3. He's got to learn to play defense, which is what all of these guys have dealt with, whether it's Steph Curry. Devin Booker certainly is a perfect parallel because now Book is a more than, I would say he's a plus defender now. And it's mainly because he understands what it takes to compete for an NBA championship. And I think that's something that this team is lacking. You have nobody on this roster that's really been a focal point of an NBA championship caliber team.
Yeah.
And so I don't fault Donovan Mitchell. I really don't. But whether it's your coaching staff, you have a very young coaching staff here as far as experience at the top of the league. Who on this staff has won a championship? Who on this roster has won a championship?
Yeah.
Who in ownership has won a championship? Dwayne Wade. That's who. And I think that's why Dwayne's here. And I you know what? I have been told that Dwayne and Donovan Mitchell have a fine relationship. There's no rub there. But at some point, Don's got to take the next leap into leadership. He's got to take the next leap into, hey, this is my team, and I'm going to lead, and I'm not going to tolerate, the kind of infighting and talking that's going on. Because that's what's needed. Don needs to stand up in the middle of that locker room and announce his presence with authority and say, we're not doing this. Jordan, you're not turning the ball over. Hey, we've got to be self-accountable. And there's an axiom in sports, and I know a lot of people don't appreciate it or are not comfortable with the term players-only meeting. You need a players-only meeting. And I know I have been told multiple times that's happened already, and that's why I say there's a leadership gap on this team. The players-only meeting turned into infighting and arguing about, with Rudy Gobert arguing that, hey, you guys got to work harder on defense, and you got to throw me the ball on offense. And his teammates said to him, hey, you turn the ball over when we give it to you. To which he said, well, so does Jordan Clarkson, but he still gets the ball. You can't continue to have this go around. Donovan Mitchell is the clear and obvious choice to step up and be the leader of this team. The question is, will he? And I'm not confident that that's going to happen.
Yeah, agreed. Completely.
I'm not. That's
exactly what I'm saying too.
So is Donovan Mitchell a problem?
I think that's aggressive to say he's a problem, but I think, if for a Donovan Mitchell-led team to go to an NBA Finals, he has to step up. And
does.
It's not just on the floor. It's in the locker room. I also think it's in the media a little bit. I think overall just a total – human PR side of his game as a star needs to pick up.
Jeremy Bolton says, "What's up, bros? How the heck are you?" Rudy Sanchez says, "Morning, fellas." Hey.
Hello.
James Knight, "Oh, you guys have a medical degree now?" LOL. Always salty. Still OS4X
I think
gold.
that's HIPAA.
Still OS4X gold.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to figure something out.
Yeah, you will.
Ramsey Tensa says, "Morning." Morning. Memphis says, "We need a defensive point guard." Oh, wait, Ben Simmons. And this has been much debated. I don't think there's any doubt that Ben Simmons fits into this team and what this team needs. I think you need a guy that attacks the basket offensively, Ben Simmons. And I think you need a guy that can lock down a wing, Ben Simmons. The problem is you don't need a guy that makes the money that Ben Simmons makes and has been the pain in the ass that Ben Simmons has been.
Yeah.
I just don't know that you want to take that risk. And I know, frankly, you can't afford him. Right now, the Jazz are in this interesting time right now where the only way that they're going to remake this roster is to lose.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to give away talent, go through a period, and that's why I hope they do this at the deadline. Trade everybody that you can trade that's not named Donovan Mitchell. Trade Mike Conley, trade Bojan Bogdanovic, trade your mom, trade everybody. And be bad this season, and then have money to spend in the offseason. Mike Conley has value. Yes, I would trade Rudy Gobert if I could tomorrow, today, yesterday, last month.
Mm-hmm.
I would trade him as soon as I can. Rip this thing apart and rebuild it around Donovan Mitchell. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
And if you can trade Mike Conley for a second rounder or a late first rounder, do it. If you can trade Bogey, if you can trade Clarkson, do it. Play the young guys, leave Donovan Mitchell here, and start over in the summer.
Yep.
That's the quickest way to a championship. Because I'm telling you now, this roster at 100% is not a championship caliber roster. Everybody's 100%. Everybody's healthy. Not a championship caliber roster. Joe Ingles on the floor, his loss is take it or leave it. I don't think it's a significant win-loss thing.
On the floor.
On the floor. I really don't. Leadership-wise, I think it sucks. It's tough not to have him on road trips. It's tough not to have him in the locker room. He is going to be rehabbing full-time, so he's not going to be able to travel. This is a big loss leadership-wise, chemistry-wise, glue guy-wise.
Yeah.
On the floor, I don't know that it means that much. But if you want to win a championship in the next 2 to 3 years, tear it down right now at the deadline. Trade everybody. That's exactly what I would do. Teddy Wayman, what's up? How are you, man? Eddie Garcia says, "My boys, good morning." Good
Hello.
morning. There's the first cough right there. I'm getting better. I'm telling you.
It's definitely improving.
It's
definitely improving.
I'm a stud.
Yeah.
Jeremy Bolton says, "Donnie is not the problem." I agree. He needs to step up, but the Jazz will never get another Donnie-like player for a long time. He needs to stay in Utah. Totally agree with that.
Agreed. 100%.
Totally agree.
100%.
Rec One says, "Nothing much to add. You guys said it all. Simmons would be nice, but how do you make that trade and win it? You don't."
Never.
Yeah, you don't. You don't. I totally agree. Steve Holler says, "Trade Gobert. Does Mitchell want to be in Utah long term?" I would absolutely trade Rudy Gobert if I could. There's no doubt. That contract is one of the worst contracts in the NBA. And Rudy's skill set, while it is elite defensively, he is the best rebounder in the NBA right now. When does that win you a championship?
The beating you will take trading Rudy Gobert is worth the time that it's going to make you suck.
I agree.
Because when you come out of that, you're going to be in a great spot.
There is value in his defensive ability. He changes shots every single possession almost.
Yeah.
But he can be had. You're seeing that teams attack him if only to drive and kick. But guys like John Morant are going to dunk on him. Nobody is bulletproof at the rim. Nobody. And ultimately what you're seeing is the team defensively is built around Rudy Gobert, and it's a huge problem because you're allowing guys to be passive defensively, and it's become pervasive. It is not that they're incapable of defending. They just don't they're not trained to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And their habit, and we are all a creature of our habits, their habit is to filter guys to Rudy. And you're learning very quickly that the athletic ability at the NBA level means you can't play like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite frustrating. Jeremy says, 2 players I stay away from no matter what, Westbrook and Simmons. Ben Simmons has tremendous value. He has tremendous upside. If he never, ever makes a mid-range or a three-point shot, he has tremendous upside because he can dribble, he can be your point guard, he can distribute, and he's an elite wing defender.
Yeah.
There's real value in that. You need that on championship caliber teams. If Rudy Gobert was a 6'6" forward, forget about it. He's an MVP. He's an MVP. Even if he doesn't have the ability offensively, he's an MVP because I guarantee you he'd be able to get to the basket. He would be Ben Simmons. The problem is he's a 7-footer with no offensive gain other than rebounding and putbacks.
Yeah. I mean, it just is. Yeah, we've been down this road before.
Steve Holler says Ingles was a good player. It was a big loss. Okay, explain to me what his loss is offensively. Because Joe Ingles isn't getting to the basket, and Joe Ingles isn't a guy that Joe Ingles, his true value to the Utah Jazz was he could make the occasional three. He was not shooting the three well this year at all. He could make the occasional three, and he didn't care about taking the chippy foul. I mean, ask Kawhi Leonard about Joe Ingles' chippy fouls.
If you go on Twitter and you look at the Joe Ingles hype tapes, if you will, or the highlight packages, the tribute videos, you can clearly see even 2 seasons ago, Joe was a quicker, better version of himself. And again, I'm not saying this to knock Joe, but if we're being realistic about where Joe Ingles is at right now or where he was before the ACL tear, the truth is that he had lost a step. Now, he can still shoot it. Just because you're not quick off your first step doesn't mean you can't shoot the ball.
Yeah.
He just hadn't happened to be shooting the ball particularly well this year. So,
look, dude, Father Time is undefeated.
Yeah.
We talk about that all the time. It is only a matter of time. When you play, by the way, the caliber of player that Joe Ingles used to be dictated that he played in the Olympics, that he played in the World Championships, that he played in the NBA.
Yeah.
And he, in the last couple of years, played in the playoffs. And he's got a lot of miles on the tires, man. It was only a matter of time. And he's not 20-something, he's 30-something.
Yeah.
So, look, I respect Joe Ingles, but we're truth tellers on this show. His offensive skill had eroded.
Mm-hmm.
He was not, the Paul George in your head thing was non-existent against the Clippers last year.
Yeah.
He was not able to do that. I think it just is what it is. DW2CB says, really sorry about Ingles. Time to spend more time developing the bench. Eli ain't polished, but he's a bird in the hand, not a trade in the bush.
Agreed. 100%, dude. Elijah.
Okay. All right, my bad. EB of the Sofa Surfer says, if Rudy could shoot from mid-range, it would be a different story, but that ain't happening.
Yeah, I mean, if he could shoot from the mid-range, they'd be a championship caliber team.
Absolutely.
Legitimately, because of what that brings to your offense and the just plethora of options you have with him being able to do that.
Yeah. Caleb says, yes, moved here in 2019, and Joe was a lot better. I think defensively is where his fall off has really been. You get enough threes out of guys on this team. I mean, let's be honest. Jordan Clarkson on his own outshoots most dudes.
But like Jordan Clarkson, and I guess this is the transition to the team conversation sort of, but like I look at guys like, what happened to Ingles, and then you look at Jordan Clarkson and like any name you want to look at, even Donovan Mitchell, like these guys just are not playing as good as they did the last couple of seasons across the roster.
Because the league has adjusted. The league has adjusted, and the Jazz have not adjusted.
Yeah.
I mean, that they still play the same way that they've always played. They have not changed. This system has not changed in 3 years. The roster is almost identical this year to last year when you look at core players.
Yeah.
I mean, Rudy Gay.
It's been a disappointment.
And I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but Rudy Gay, you took a risk on a much older player, and you hoped for a young man's contribution. The small ball lineup has not succeeded. You are still getting beat badly by small ball lineups.
Mm-hmm.
And with Rudy in, with Rudy out, you're still getting beaten badly by small ball lineups. And I think Rudy Gay's highest best use is Joe Ingles. He is what Joe Ingles used to be. He can defend multiple positions, and he's still a pretty good knockdown three-point shooter.
Yeah.
Right? He is the new Joe Ingles on this team. And that's why I say, other guys are carrying the load that Joe Ingles used to carry, right? Now, the question is, how much does this time without Don and Rudy get Elijah Hughes more minutes?
Yeah.
Jared Butler's terrible right now. I mean, he is there are spurts of just awful basketball out of him.
Yeah.
Play him more.
Yeah, dude.
Play him more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, figure it out. It is, you're either going to compete for a championship or you're going to be an also-ran. But
the truth is, and this is not going to sound nice, but when's the last time they weren't an also-ran?
Stockton and Malone. I mean, that's the God's honest truth.
What indication do we have outside of, hey, they just brought in Danny Ainge, and yeah, I mean, you added Wade in the ownership, but that group hasn't done anything yet. Now, timing-wise, they're still getting the benefit of the doubt. But if nothing happens at the deadline, I think you have to start to ask the question, okay, what's the strategy? Are we really waiting till summer to really start, doing things?
Yeah. We're giving away the Xbox Series X coming up here in about 20 minutes. Stick around for that. We are. It's that day.
We've been telling you. I mean, we told you, like, when did we start running the YouTube video for the Xbox? What was it, like 2 weeks ago? Maybe.
Something like
we
that,
haven't
yeah.
had this thing very long.
Yeah.
It
is the hottest device that we've ever given away. And we're giving away another PS5. We're going to actually talk about that coming up after we give away the Xbox Series X. But please check out our links below. All of our favorite Amazon items are there. And by the way, if you're not a Prime member, my goodness, absolutely positively.
You're a casual.
Yeah, if you're a casual, get an Xbox or get a Amazon Prime membership. It's 50% off. It's a trial membership. I think it's $6.99 a month. That link is below in the description on both the podcast and on the YouTube live stream, so check that out. eBay says a Torrey Craig would have been a good pickup. Yes, absolutely. James Knight says you praise the addition of Rudy Gay and now he's not. You can't have it both ways. Absolutely, we praise the addition of Rudy Gay, but he has not lived up to what you hoped he would be.
It's not. See, and again, all due respect, and I know, James, you're going to DM me after the show, making sure that everything is good, right? I don't hate you. I don't have any kind of feeling towards you, but when you're going to come in here and try to air our dirty laundry, if you will, or however you want to describe what it is that you're doing, yeah, you're damn right. We can have it both ways because it's not having it both ways. What it is, hey, yes, great job taking a risk on this guy. This is at the time with where the team was at, it was a good decision, but it hasn't worked out. And now Joe Ingles tore his ACL, so you're going to ask more out of Eric Paschall. You're going to ask more out of Rudy Gay. You're going to ask Jordan Clarkson not to turn it over 7-8 times a game. Like these things, the ask keeps going up, right?
Yeah, yes.
That's the problem. You're asking more of guys than you should be. When you signed Rudy Gay, go back and watch the video. Again, this is the greatness of YouTube, right? Everything that we say is on our YouTube channel. It's not hard to find the Rudy Gay video. Go find it. On that day, when we were talking about Rudy Gay, we specifically talked about how, hey, you're going to ask this guy to do more than he's probably capable of at this stage in his career. Asking him to play the 5 the same way a Draymond Green does or the same way a PJ Tucker does at times for their respective teams is probably a pretty big ask for Rudy Gay. Now, has he shot it halfway decent? Yeah, he has. He's made some shots. That's his strength. But I just think the reason you brought him in was for the wrong reason. You brought him in to play small ball, and that's not his highest and best use.
No,
And we said that on the day they brought him in.
Yeah. Steve Holler, is Devin Booker actually good? Wow, really? Do we have to have this conversation
You're
again?
casual.
No, we're not
we have
having
to
that
have this
conversation
conversation again.
We're not having it.
Do you think the Jazz will finish top 3 seed? Caleb said. I do not. When Don and Rudy come back, I hope we hit our stride before the playoffs and make a run. We need that 25-point a game from Spida, and Rudy's defensive presence will help us win.
Do you understand what you're going to have to do to be a top 3 seed right now?
Well, no. First of all, do you understand it's not early anymore?
Yeah.
Do you understand that we're like 50 games into the season? Like, it's not – there's not a whole lot of time left.
You're literally going to have to – like, you've got, to your point, you're 50-ish games into the season. Yeah, you got the record there.
The season ends April 10th.
And we're in February.
It's February 1st.
You have 60 days, and you're probably playing 27-ish games or so in that time. Whatever the exact number is, bro, you're going to have to win. I hope people understand this. To be a top 3 seed, when these guys come back, you're going to have to win like 17 out of 20,
You've
You
played
know, like
51 games.
like-
you have 30 games left.
like 15 out of 18. You know, like you're gonna have to go on one of those runs like you did in 2018.
And it's not, you don't have the talent to do that.
Yeah, and that's the scary part, and that's why I say, you know, again, to go back to the thumbnail and the question of the day, you know, is Donovan Mitchell a problem? Is he a franchise player? Like, where are we at on Donovan Mitchell? There's another side to that conversation when it comes to the rest of the season. How much, like, if you know that you're not a championship team, because eventually this front office and leadership group of this team is going to make that decision.
Oh, they
Hey,
have already.
Well,
They have already.
Well, I can't definitively say that.
I can absolutely say that. Danny Ainge recognizes this roster needs to be made over. He is going to make significant
But how
changes.
does that affect Donovan Mitchell? So, like, the point I was getting to is that there's no incentive for them to bring Donovan Mitchell back or play him or
Oh, I
any
totally
of these
agree.
guys.
And that's what we talked about the other day. Why would you rush Donovan Mitchell back now? You're 4 games behind Memphis. You're 4 games behind Memphis with 30 games to go. You're 4 games back of Memphis. What are the chances you're going to make up those 4 games on Memphis? Almost nothing. Almost nothing. There's no chance. I think I'm not going to say no chance. You could go undefeated the rest of the year. Sure, that could happen. It's not going to happen. I mean, if you look at, I think there's more of a chance they'll be in the 6th spot than they'll be in the 3rd spot. My guess is if they continue down this road with the way that Minnesota is playing right now, the Jazz are going to have to fight tooth and nail to stay out of the play-in tournament. Because right now, you look at Minnesota is scoring 111 points a game. Now, they're not very good defensively. I think Minnesota's giving up 110 points a game. That's not going to win you much. But that team's tough to contend with, as the Jazz just found out the other night. Like and
that was kind of an ass kicking.
They're only 4 games behind you. And the way the Jazz are playing at 2-8 in their last 10, the T-Wolves don't have to play 700 basketball to catch them. You're 1 game out of the 6th spot right now. Do you understand that? With 30 games to go, the Dallas Mavericks are 1 win behind you. You're at 30, they're at 29. They're in the 6th spot, you're in the 4th spot.
And you got Brooklyn coming.
And you got 30 games left. Like you're out of time here.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people believe, oh, there's all this time. No, there's not. You got 30 games to go. You're 50 games into the season, man. Like it's unbelievable how fast things happen, especially when there's negativity.
Mm-hmm.
Negativity, like the ends of the spectrum. Absolute domination and absolute negativity make time fly. When you're just a mediocre plodding team, which the Jazz have not been, they have been terrible. When you're a mediocre plodding team, when you're the Dallas Mavericks, the season just happens. Season just happens. When you lose the way the Jazz have been losing, time flies. And it's very difficult to right that ship. It is. Anyway, I don't mean to keep going on. I think Joe's injury could galvanize the group. Okay, explain to me how it would galvanize this group.
Yeah. I think that's wishful thinking.
I think if it was Donovan, if it was... See, here's my problem with Rudy Gobert. And I want to be careful in saying that his teammates don't like him. He's grinding on his teammates, Rudy Gobert. So I don't know that Rudy being out would be galvanizing. I think Donovan, I think Conley being out. There's not a whole lot of love in that locker room right now. There's not a whole lot of chemistry in that locker room right now. And I just don't, I mean, Joe Ingles is a glue guy. He's not the type of guy, though, his injury galvanizes you. Because when you think about, hey, his injury brought us together and saved the season, you don't have to try that hard to replace his production. Rudy Gay is going to replace his minutes and likely produce at a higher level than Joe Ingles.
Yeah.
So if that happens, or if you play Elijah Hughes, who I think is probably one of the more likely candidates off the rack to replace Joe Ingles' minutes, if you play Elijah Hughes and you play Rudy Gay in his spot and they produce, Joe Ingles becomes a memory. He doesn't become somebody like, oh man, I miss him. He's going to become a memory.
Man, those 8 years with Joe Ingles were great.
And that's what it'll be. When Joe retires, and the Jazz aren't going to retire his number. You know, like, I mean, I think the Jazz will do a nice ceremony for him. But Joe Ingles, let's not overemphasize Joe Ingles. He is important in a chemistry glue fashion.
He was a culture hero for the team.
But his performance has dipped to a point where you're not, he certainly is not irreplaceable.
Yeah.
He just is not.
Yeah.
Brandon Whiteside says, you're making no sense. Of course, minus Don and Rudy, we're at 2 and 8. Do that all teams, they would be in the same situation. Jazz are fine. The problem is
wait. The Jazz are fine. You really think that this team is fine?
What does fine mean?
Yeah, help me understand, what does fine mean? So you're not at all concerned about the relationship between Don and Rudy. You're not at all concerned that it's taken Don an extraordinary amount of time to come back from a concussion that he should have been back from in a week or so.
You're not at all concerned that they simply cannot defend. They cannot defend. And so when you say things like, well, without Don and Rudy, they are XYZ. What were they with Don and Rudy?
What are the Warriors without Klay Thompson? Oh, that's right. They're still one of the best teams in the league.
But what was this? Was this with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert? This was a top 3 team in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Was it one of the best teams in the NBA? No, it was not. Was it a championship caliber team? No, it was not. You're not better than the Suns. You're not better than the Warriors. You're probably not better than the Nets or the Bucks. The Nets are a dumpster fire.
You're not better than the Grizzlies right now. You're not.
Well, and that was going to be my next point. I don't even know that you're better than Memphis in a 7-game series. And by the way, if they have home court advantage, good luck.
Right now, and you can crucify me for this, I would take Ja Morant over Donovan Mitchell right now.
Oh, I think everybody would.
Well, I don't know that everybody would.
Oh, come on. I think Ja Morant, you're watching, and this is part of the thing with Donovan Mitchell, you're watching Ja Morant take leaps and bounds in skill. But Donovan came into the league a more polished player. So those leaps and bounds were going to be smaller. And we've seen Donovan extend his three-point shot. We've seen him not be so reliant on the explosive rim game. Now he's trying to work in more mid-range. I don't have any doubt. I don't know who. I'm sure somebody will say it. I'll take Ja Morant over Donovan Mitchell. I think everybody would.
Well, what do the comments say?
Rec1 says I would too. Brylark says I'd love to be a Grizzlies fan right now. Jordan McDonald says K. So let me go to K. Nuren first. This team is done as a team. Replace all the starters on the team. Tank the rest of the season. There you go. Jordan McDonald says, K, we can't tank. We don't have our picks this year. Yeah. You're helping other. Dennis Lindsey's a beloved figure.
Yeah, okay.
No, he's not.
Sure he is.
Golden State without Clay and Curry are a lotto team.
No, they're not, dude.
The Jazz' biggest problem is perimeter defense.
Bro.
With Rudy and Mitchell, we are a top 3 team with the trash perimeter defense. You're a top 3 team that can't win in the postseason. And so my question is, and I guess this has always been my struggle with Jazz fans. You're telling me it's good enough as long as you make the playoffs. Well, then what is Dwayne Wade doing here? What is Ryan Smith doing here? What do his billions mean? Why are you paying the luxury tax to win in the regular season? That's not good enough. You were never a championship caliber team in the last, and again, Brandon, you've been a longtime listener of this show. In the last 2 years, all I've been saying is they are not a championship caliber team because they're built around the wrong guy. They're built around Rudy Gobert. They're built around the wrong guy.
What happened when you were built around somebody named Karl Malone? What happened when you were
you were built around tenacious defense that led to incredible transition offense? You think about the very best, highest use team. Karl Malone, John Stockton, Jeff Hornacek. You look at Mark Eaton. You look like all those guys that were in the rotation. Like even Greg Ostertag was a really effective player at his best for the Jazz, right? You look at that system, it was built on creating havoc defensively so that John and Karl could get out and run. That's what these teams were made of. You think about all of the Antoine Carrs of the world. You think about all of those guys on those teams, they were role players. The problem is they had on Stockton and Malone, you had Stockton and Malone who were genuine superstars, two of the best players in the NBA with a good core group of role players. I don't know that you have one of the best players in the NBA. Is Donovan Mitchell one of the best players in the NBA? I don't think so. I don't think he's top 10 player in the NBA. Right? Like, is Rudy Gobert one of the top 10 players in the NBA? Absolutely not. So who's the best player on this team? I'm telling you it's Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
And he's a top 15, he's for sure a top 20 player.
Yes.
But I'm taking Ja Morant. Are you taking Jason Tatum over Donovan Mitchell?
Yes.
Probably you are. Right? So I look at, like right now, I'm taking DeMar DeRozan, the way they're playing today, right now, not for the future. Today, right now, DeMar DeRozan's an MVP candidate. Right? There's a lot of guys doing the job better than Donovan Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
Not even in the West. I'm talking about the East. Think about Joel Embiid. Look how far he's raised his game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Joel Embiid. I'm taking Joel Embiid over Donovan Mitchell every single day.
Anthony Edwards or Donovan Mitchell?
That's a tough one. And that's the ball breaker right there, because I'm probably leaning towards Donovan Mitchell in that argument. But, man, if Anthony Edwards has another summer like he had last summer and he comes out and he can really hit the mid-range, you're done.
It's over.
Because that kid is shooting the three incredibly well on a terrible team.
But here's the thing, again, and I just want to keep bringing this up because I feel like it doesn't get talked about a lot with Don. Notice Anthony Edwards is on a bad team, but notice the attitude of that team. The attitude of that team is, hey, we're going to try and kick your ass every single night. We may not win. We understand that we're not going to win a championship right now. But every team that we play, especially at home, we're going to bring our highest and best to that game. And that's what I feel like the difference is in some of these groups around the league versus this group that we have here in Salt Lake. I don't feel like on a nightly basis you get their highest and best effort. And I understand right now, without Don and Rudy, there's a lot of adversity. There's a lot of downtroddenness. There's a lot of negativity. Okay, I understand that. But even before the injuries, there were times like the Joe Ingles moment. There were times when you had guys who were not trying their absolute best. And like with Jordan Clarkson, he's a good example. Sometimes I wonder, hey man, when are you going to be committed to stop turning the basketball over? When are you going to simply say, okay, I'm not going to turn the basketball over. I'm going to prioritize taking care of the rock and passing the ball. And my coach shouldn't have to wring my neck to pass it to the opposite wing to Bogey, who's standing wide open by like 5 feet. Like, those are the things that I wonder about this group. And that's why I say it all comes back to the lack of leadership on the team. That's where it all comes back to.
Man, I'm sitting here contemplating Anthony Edwards over Donovan Mitchell. That's a lot closer than I thought it would be.
Anthony Edwards has size. Anthony Edwards can get 2 shots that Donovan can't.
He's more explosive than Donovan is.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that everybody talks about with Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
I did a radio show the other day in New York, and they asked me if Donovan Mitchell was an explosive player.
I don't think he's he's not explosive the same way Edwards or Ja.
Well, and I said my answer to that question was I don't think he's dunking on guys. I don't think he's a body snatcher. But if you give him space in the paint, he can dunk. But Donovan Mitchell, it's interesting. Donovan Mitchell plays old man basketball.
Meaning
that he's not a guy he's not your prototypical explosive player.
Mm-hmm.
He's much more stylistically, he's much more Klay Thompson, Steph Curry than he is Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
Like, he's much more of a guy that relies on his shot rather than his athletic ability, right? So Anthony Edwards, frankly, I just watched a bunch of him this last week, so it's fresh in my mind, but he's a guy that wants to injure you every single time. He's a lot closer to Ja Morant. Like, they'll want to dunk on you, but they also want to beat you with their jumper.
Yeah.
And Anthony Edwards just is not great in the mid-range. He's found the ability now, and everybody in Minnesota talks about how he and Malik Beasley are working together to develop their three-point game. Like, there's a lot of, formation happening in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
you can see him growing leaps and bounds. What you see in Donovan Mitchell is he's working on range at the 3 and off the dribble. He's not trying to get to the basket nearly as much because I think he's worried about his health. He can, but he's not an explosive player. Anyway, my point is, I think Don and Anthony Edwards are a lot closer than you think.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Donovan and his crew aren't hungry enough on a consistent basis, Josh Lovren says. I don't disagree with that.
I agree with that, yeah.
Jordan McDonald says Anthony Edwards isn't the passer shooter that Mitchell is. Well, I got news for you.
Yeah,
you better
I disagree, dude.
You better watch because he's shooting the ball exceptionally well.
Get on YouTube and go and do your homework.
Ooh,
I'm telling you.
He is, Jordan. I'm telling you, Anthony Edwards is shooting really well. Austin Lewis says maybe the Xbox should go to the Jazz so they have at least one trade asset. Oh, my God.